We're back on the plot. This is our final little look. You might have seen the video earlier with all the varieties that bloomed earlier, but a lot of them have bloomed since then. So we're going to show you one or two of the ones that have done well in the later stages. We've had terrible weather here. I always think the northerners have the thin end of the wedge with the weather, but we have had our fair share of bad weather this year with wind and rain, stories of covers being knocked down and that sort of thing. A lot of split petalling, as you can see on varieties like this E2 from Phil Godsmark. It's all sort of splitting with the weather, but we haven't had any heavy rain for about 5 days, so they're recovering. This is E2. It's orange small deck, as you can see, from Phil Godsmark. Second year I've grown it, and it's really good. I won the seedling class the other night at Essex with it, and it's a really nice small deck, grown about 8 up. Doesn't need covering, as you can see. These have been outside, and really good. Going on to John Willett's white small semi-cactus, no name yet, but quite pleasant. Told me to grow it 14 up, and I did. Quite a good looking, nice and deep, good shape, a white small semi-cactus from John Willett. I've been waiting for quite a time for this one to open. It's Spennythorn Shirley from Eric Booth in Stockton-on-Tees. Have a look at this bloom, Dave. It's a really nice bloom of it. I think it'll probably be a semi-cactus opposed to a deck, would you agree? Yeah. And nice centre, nice depth, but again the weather's getting to it. Nice deep bloom, but it's just marking up with all the rain what we've been getting every day. It rains at the moment. I'm thinking of moving to Blackburn. Only joking. And that's very good. 5 up, he told me. There's all 5 blooms out at the same time, and I like that a lot. John Willett somewhere, John Carter's somewhere down the other end of the garden at the moment, but this is his variety. It's called Kilncroft James, and it's a collarette, as you can see. It wasn't that great early. It was a bit gappy, I thought, earlier on. But when you look at that bloom now, it's nicely joined, and I think that might have a future. Kilncroft James from John Carter.
What's the, is that a large pom there?
That's a large pom. Amgard Beacon from David Bates. I've had nice blooms. I've got another plant over there. This is a bad end of the garden really, but it's good tight form. That's probably the best bloom of the 3. A bit small, but could be good. Could be good. Armguard Beacon from David Bates. Not all the swans are swans. Some of them are geese, and this is one that didn't make it. This is a miniature semi-cactus from Phil Godsmark, and no doubt it was great in his plot last year. But every bloom has been open centred. It's not on a name, it's on a number. It's H16, and won't make it obviously, and will get dumped at the end of the year. This came as a medium deck, grown it about 6 up, but it's a giant. It's a large informal deck, I would say. Can't take the weather much. It's spotting up, but quite good. Might have a future, that one. It's on the number of H11. It's a white large deck informal from Phil Godsmark. This is Phil Godsmark's little row here. He normally sends me 7 or 8, and these are all ones of his. Let's find the cleanest one because the weather's been at them. This is a small deck, beautiful colour, like a violet colour. Goes right back on the stem, as you can see. Grown it 8 up. It's a chunky, big, strong grower, and good blooms. Now that might do something. Certainly in the garden and cut flower, that might be a show variety. That's probably about the best bloom we've got today, because in this weather they're all marking, unfortunately, which doesn't happen to me often. But
it's nicer on the face, isn't it?
Yeah. This is from Tony Kingdom. I thought the plant was going to die, so I decided to grow it on the crown break. I just had a couple of side buds to hold it down a bit. But it's a white giant deck. But it does have a problem. Can you hone in on that green centre there? Yeah. And Tony was telling me that is the only fault he's found on it, is that that it's hard to get rid of the green centre. And you can see the weather now, how the very heavy rain that we had has split pretty much everything outside. We don't normally have that sort of thing, but and I don't want it again particularly. Ball dahlia from Phil, on a number again. This one is H7, and it's a miniature ball, good form, bright yellow, goes right back marking, but that's nice as well. Number H7. The last of the Happy Diane are just coming out, which you saw last time. This is a young bloom, but it did very well, that variety. Same applies to Blight and Stella. Quite small now on the second flush, but I liked it a lot. Might grow it next year. Blight and Stella from Les Stothard. This one here is a Spannythorn. Spannythorn, I should know the name, but I don't. Pamela. Spannythorn Pamela from Eric Booth. Grew it as a small deck last year. Grown it as a miniature deck this year at 8 up. It might be one that falls between two stalls. It might be too small to be a small deck, and it might not be refined enough to be a miniature deck. I'll give it one more try next year and grow it 12 up, and we shall see. I grew the white Vales white this year, but I'm not impressed with it really. I saw some pictures of David Hall's and it looked great, but for me it's a little bit unhealthy, and that'll be the last time I grow it. This is another one from Derek Cave, sent as a small semi-cactus, as Derek quite often does. I don't know what he's growing in, on the beach I reckon, but they come a lot bigger for me. And this is Causton Susan. It's a chunky looking medium semi-cactus, very pretty, with salmon and yellow blends. That's from Derek Cave, and it's called Causton Susan. We're going to see that one over there. It's one from John Willett. It's a Fim, which won't make it, I don't think. This is called Jenny. This is Kilncroft Jenny from John Carter. It's a collarette, bright yellow with a yellow and white inner ring, inner collar, and that's been quite good late on, as Kilncroft James, both from John. Not a good bloom at the moment, but this is from Steve Cox in Australia. It's called Lindy, Stevens Lindy. It's a miniature ball in orange, and might not make it unfortunately. This one will. This is a good medium deck. It's called Mary Margaret Rowe from Roger Day down in Cambridge Way. And this will, I believe it won its seedling class, didn't it, Harrogate?
So, yeah.
Done well at Harrogate anyway, and I think that's got a future. It's not big. He told me to grow it 5 up, and I did, and that's about 8 inches I would guess. But every bloom has been like that. It's a reliable, just coming to an end. These are the last 3 blooms, but done very well. Liked it. Mary Margaret Rowe from Roger Day. I'm not tall enough for this one, but this is Barbary Pixie from Barry Davis. I'll bring them forward without stacking their heads off. And it's got a load of petal. I made the mistake, or I give it 1 stop last year, grew it 4 up because that's all it threw. I've got 8 up on it this year, and we are getting rid of the heavy centre. It's got a lot of petal in it. It's a borderline ball deck. I'd probably just about, we decided earlier, David and I, we'd probably go down the ball route for it, but it could be shown in either class. And that is called Barbary Pixie, and it's raised by Barry Davis. This is named after, allegedly, Ian Sutherland. It's called Barbary Jester, and I've got 2 plants, 10 blooms on each, and would you believe these are the first 2 blooms that have come out. The other 18 are on their way. And it's a small deck from Barry Davis. It's in a mixture of orange or salmon and yellow. Big blooms. Got caught really being told it needed to be grown 10 up, which it does, and then I double stopped it to make sure I got the 10 blooms, which made it late. So when I grow it next year, I'll have a bigger plant, get the 10 blooms on a single stop, and have it flowering earlier. because when they flower at this time, you're not seeing them at their best. This is a young bloom. Look at the back of it. You know, it's not good, especially on a season like this where everything's getting clattered with the weather. I'm moving to Glasgow. Not really. This is called Rycroft Blackberry. Been very good right through. Been blooming since late August right through to now. Probably made a mistake growing 22 blooms on a plant. Needs about 16 up. It's a large pom in red, and when you pull a petal out, normally there's yellow at the base of it. You don't notice it, but when you actually, now destroying a bloom that I need to show you. Packed up showing. But if you look at the petals, you think it's a totally red variety, but it's actually red. The red is overlaying a yellow base, which you don't see, but it's there. But a really good show variety for a large pom, probably the best one that's out there at the present time, I would say. This has been very good, and now the weather's cooling down, the centres are holding much better than they did before, and they're getting the depth, and they've still got a good centre. This is called Hercules, Jasudi Hercules from the late Peter Greenway, and I like that a lot. And that's our Amgard beacon again from Dave Bates, and both of them have done well. Can we get down the back row? We'll fight our way down. And this has been very good again. It's called Champagne, Happy Champagne, from Peter Hasselhofer in Austria. And I've had two really good films this year. One is called Normandy Delight, which is finished now, and the other one is called Happy Champagne, and this has been really good. I was a bit dubious whether coming from abroad how good it was, but again with these films, growing them outside with the rain and the wind, and you know, I'm playing the violin again now. You've got to look at this, because if you saw the first video, you'll remember how much we criticised this variety, and it was hot, and they were coming out quick, as Phil Damp would say. We live in the tropics down here, but it's a different dahlia now. This is called Spennythorn Georgia May. It's from Eric Booth in Stockton-on-Tees, and look at that. What's wrong with that? It's a medium semi-cactus, 8-inch bloom, plenty of depth, good centre, good colour, salmon with a yellow middle, nothing wrong with it at all. It's only that we live down in the tropics, and when the sun shines, as it does most years, will it cope with that? Eric lives in Stockton-on-Tees, and anywhere north of that would do great with it. Down here, I don't know. It's called Westerton Ella Grace. It's raised by Gordon Hodgson. It's going to be released, I believe, by David Hall, and it's named after his granddaughter, and it's
it's his niece, actually.
Niece, is it? Grandniece, great niece. I think it's a great niece. Might be a great grandmother, we don't know. Great niece then. It was his wife when I done the first video. Now it's his granddaughter. Now it's his great niece.
I think so.
John said it's his grandmother, but it's a lavender, pale lavender and white blended miniature deck. Goes right back on the stem. Good form. I grew it 8 up, believing it might be a small deck, but that was a mistake. You'd probably want about 10 on it. I think it's not massive. It's just right for a full-size miniature. The only fault, the reason they're caned is not because it's got a particularly weak stem. I've just been waiting for the centre, the green to go out the centre, so we could film it today with a reasonable centre on it, because it takes an awful long time to get rid of the green centre. For me, maybe not for others, but for me who's grown 2 plants here right on the path so we could see it, and it's a lovely thing, but I'd just be watching that centre a little bit. This is from the giant deckman, Sherwell. What's his blooming name? Heather. Sherwell Heather. It's a giant deck from Tony Kingdom. It hasn't really got a lot of depth just yet, and the weather's going to get at it now. But facially, it's an interesting giant deck. It's probably about 11 or 12 inches across, but a bit shallow, bit of a dinner plate at the moment, and might get marked up. But an interesting giant deck. We haven't got many giant decks. I've only got the 2 this year. Now this is Causton Gold. I grew it last year. I've grown a lot more on the plant this year, but it is a large semi-cactus, and it won the Gel Deck trophy for that type at Wisley. And the other one that's finished now over the back is Causton George, and that won the medium semi-cactus championship, the Amari trophy for new varieties at Wisley. This has been holding its centre better. I don't know if I can find one with a decent centre, but this is Aurora, Jasudi Aurora, which is done really well late on. Needed the cooler weather for the centres, and a really heavy, nice heavy centre, and still got plenty of depth to it. Earlier on I was getting the depth when the centre was nearly blown, so that was good. I like this from the start. This is Jasudi Andromeda, a miniature cactus. Did well earlier on, can't really see the best of it now. Blackberry's still doing well.
Got the film there.
Which one? This one. Yeah, this is from John Willett. This is called Star, Normandy Star. It's a Fim, but not a Fim. When you look round here it's a Fim, when you look round here it's a straight semi-cactus, and it wouldn't have a future really. Fimming across the bloom has to be fairly equal and level, and this one is a two-part dahlia. Fimming in the base, semi-cactus in the front. Unfortunately, John, I miss. I don't mean to be derogatory, but this is the worst new variety that I grew. I just couldn't get on with this. Look at it blooming now. I couldn't control it. I'm a control freak, and this just ran away from me. And it's called Delegate, Barbary Delicate. It's got quite a heavy centre. The stems are a bit ungainly, and I had a couple of good barberries, but this wasn't quite what I was hoping for. And to have all this bloom now, and we're coming into the last week of September, and the flush is just going to hit, I might be looking for a Christmas show. The other one, the other two in this bed are both new, so we'll have a quick look at them again. This is Primrose Hall. I've had one or two good vases of it. People criticise the centre at times, but I quite like it. It's quite a nice little centre, a little way to go. But yeah, I can see a future for that. I think people will grow that. It's hard to tell this variety, which is called Marston Snowball, from the old Rycroft Jan. I think what it probably is a really good bit of stock of Rycroft Jan, because I've had some really lovely blooms here, but it would be folly to show it under that name. I would continue to use it as Rycroft Jan, because you won't tell them apart. If it was ever classified, you'd have to make it synonymous with Jan. I'll mention this because it's had a great year. This is not new. I've probably grown it 5 or 6 years now. It's called Polventum Cristobal, but it's had a terrific year. Last year was a total disaster. Every bloom I had last year was on plants that were stunted, short, mottled. The blooms were stripy. Same stock, and look at it. Healthy as a flea. Right from the start I knew it was going to have a good year. And every bloom is a showable bloom. And I just didn't grow enough of it. I grew 20 that you might think's a lot of plants, but the year before, when it was a disaster, I grew 45 plants. And the year I did well with it, 2015, I also grew 45 plants. But because it had such a disastrous year last year, I cut down, but I'll probably go back up to 45, and it'll have a bad year. That's my luck. Right, that's all then. Another one I grew for the first time. All those three I just mentioned I grew for the first time in the main beds. Rycroft Misty I've grown for the first time last year. It was grown just 2 plants in the trial bed, and I liked it from the start. It's a class act, it's a miniature deck, plenty of depth to it as you can see. Good colouring. They say it might be hard to match, but they're just 2 random blooms and there's not much. If you cut 30 blooms you'd end up with 2 or 3 really good vases matching the colours each time. It starts out with a darker flush and then gradually wanes down as the colour goes on the outside of the bloom like that. But really good. It's been really consistent. Every bloom is showable. It's not very big, it needs growing 8 up to get this sort of size, and pretty much stripping down, because that's as big as you'll get. It's about a 4-inch bloom, it'll never go over size, and none of those 3 did. Snowball, Primrose Hall, Delegate might, but the others stay within the ring if you grow the right number on the plant. And I grew 9 up on Snowball, grew 9 up on Primrose Hall, 9 up on Delegate, and 8 up on Misty. Rycroft Misty from Phil Godsmark's was good. I want to show you a good bloom really. Okay. This is Marksman, Rycroft Marksman from Phil Godsmark. It's a ball dahlia, clear ball dahlia, and white. Sometimes it has a lavenderish flush on them like those 2 have, and sometimes not. And I didn't show it much, and it might be a bit chunky for the miniature ball section, but when you see the smaller blooms, I mean, it's okay. That would be no worse than a Mary's or a Jamander. So 9 up I grew it, comes to size, and it's called Rycroft Marksman. This is Barbary Jester. I've grown it, this is the 3rd year I've grown it. I've grown 2 plants each year in the new varieties, and bit the bullet this year and grow a full bed of it, 42 plants, and it's had a good year, not only from me but everyone else. I think we're going to see a lot of this in the next few years. It's a dark red miniature deck, probably near, I grew it 8 up, pretty much stripped, but that's probably too much. It will take 9, it will take 10 up. It's a good size dahlia. These would be right up to the ring, some of these, and it's had a good year. Every bloom's been good. It's just got a mixture of health in it, and I've got to rogue this out. Some of them are a bit mottly, and the blooms aren't so good on these plants, and then you get these cleaner plants where the good blooms have come from. So these ones that are really not very good, the blooms sometimes have come funny shapes, like that wouldn't be round, and that's not just luck. I think it's the fact that the plants that have got the mottle in, have got the bit of virus, are the ones that have got the problem as regards shape of bloom. Not one of them I'm pulling down now is a round bloom, is it?
No.
So that is what I try and iron out. But I've got half the plants that are clean and half the plants that are mottled. And I know David Gillen wants to grow this, so he's going to get the ones that are mottled. No! I've grown this pom for the first time. It's called Ibis Rhonda. It's a blooming rainbow of colours. It's levelling out a bit now, and off this lot you might even get 6 that match up, I don't know, but it's one of them. But it is a lovely flower, and sometimes it has a bit of fading under the bloom, like that one there. That's an old bloom, but they do lose a bit of colour sometimes, and when you're judging these and they are two-tone like that, it would be a minor fault. So you really want to show them with a consistency of colour like that, which would be fine. But look at the bloom on it now. It's as much bloom as I've had all season. But I won't grow it again. I've been promised one of the new poms, so maybe that will turn up. One then is Hillcrest Jonathan. I don't think it's on the market yet. It might be. It's from Les Jackson. And it's not a show flower, it's a beautiful garden flower that Carmen loves, and this is on one of her beds, and it's done really well. It's got stems like iron. I've shown it all season long, and it's still flowering. You can see the bed, there's 13-15 plants there, and she has it for a cut flower job, and they've all been like that. And it's on a 2nd, maybe a 3rd flush now, and it's been really good. It's called Hillcrest Jonathan from Les Jackson. Goes right back on the stem.
50 plants next year for your Terry Clark.
No, but it might get mixed up with the stock of Misty that I'm going to let you have. I know you like a bit of colour in your exhibits. This will give you that colour.
I only like yellow.
Oh.